Gentlemen, please take your seats. The spotlight is about to begin. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mystery Matt, and you're listening to the Mystery Matt Spotlight podcast. Almost fucked that up. You know?
If you didn't point it out.
If I didn't point it out, I might have gotten away with it. Yeah, that's how that goes. This evening, we are going to be covering... What are we covering?
The Idaho 4 murder case.
The Idaho 4 murder case. Not 3, not 2. There's 4 of them. This evening, I'm joined by Nancy, Sarah, and we have a in-studio guest, my cousin. I'm not going to point out her name in case she doesn't want to point it out. So, yeah, I don't know what this is about. I'm assuming it's a true crime. That's why it's on your tablet and not mine.
Yeah, your assumption would be correct. All right, so for a quick synopsis, on November 13th, 2022, in the very early morning hours, 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered. 21-year-olds Kaylee Gongalves and Madison Mogan, who had been best friends since the 6th grade. 20-year-olds Xana Gernodal and her 20-year-old boyfriend, who just happened to stay over that November night, Ethan Chapin. Also in the house, but unharmed, were roommates Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. Kaylee had recently moved out of the 3-story house on 1122 King Road after graduating early. She was about to start a new job in Austin, Texas in the new year, and had come to visit her friends to show off her new but previously owned Range Rover. The 6 roommates and Xana's boyfriend, Ethan, had posed together earlier in the day for a photo which has become the center of the case. One we will post on our Mystery Map fan club page. The 6-bedroom house was very strangely laid out, with the first 2 bedrooms on the bottom floor, one on each side of the front door and the driveway just outside. Bethany Funk's room was on the front, like to the left of the front door, and the other room was empty. Then you go up to the stairs to the 2nd floor, which enters into the living room, and on the other side of the stairs is another bedroom, which was Xana's. And then from the living room, you walk towards the back of the house into a hallway. On the right is the kitchen with a sliding door that leads to a concrete back patio, which is ground level. And to the left hall is another bedroom, which belongs to Dylan. Next to her bedroom is the stairway leading up to the 3rd floor. To the left in the back facing bedroom was Kaylee's former bedroom. And that night, her dog Murphy was in that room asleep on her bed with the door closed. To the right, and also facing the back of the house, was Madison's bedroom. And it was Madison's bedroom that both Maddie and Kaylee were killed in, as Kaylee decided to sleep in her best friend's room that unfateful night.
I've seen pictures of the house, and it's weird layout. And so, like, I did a little... you had mentioned this to me before, and I was looking it up, and I'm like, that's a really odd layout for a house. Like,
Yeah.
Really weird. You would, yeah. I have more opinions, but I'll wait till you get into it.
No, you can go. But that's why I went into the description of the house.
Yeah.
So I actually have the blueprints of the house, so I will post those on the Mystery Map fan club page as well.
But, like, you need to know where you're going in the house to find who you're looking for.
Exactly.
Because it's not the typical layout of a house where you could walk in and be like, oh, the bedrooms must be over here.
Yeah. They are so spread out that you had to know. You had to know where you were going. So, Matt, do you have anything to add?
No, I just can't believe the clown faces we're getting over here from this one. She's pumped up like a freaking...
No, she's fucking high as a kite.
She just loves it.
Okay.
She's having a blast.
So we're going to do a quick, not so quick timeline.
And Kevin's bugging me.
Well, Kevin, stop bugging. We're recording.
He knows that. He's laughing at me.
Fuck him. So Friday, November 11th, Kaylee arrived for the weekend, and she and Dylan attended a sorority party together. The next day on the 12th, Kaylee with Maddie on her shoulders, Ethan with Xana in his arms, and Bethany posed for a picture together before possibly attending a University of Idaho football game that afternoon. Early in the evening, Ethan takes his triplet sister Maisie to her sorority dance, and then at 8 p.m. picks up Xana at her house and takes her to a party at his fraternity Sigma Chi. At 10 p.m., Maddie and Kaylee took a cab to the Corner Club. Sunday, November 13th, 2022, at midnight, Dylan and Bethany return home and head to their bedrooms. At 1:30 a.m., Maddie and Kaylee, along with an acquaintance, Jack Showalter, leave the Corner Club slightly intoxicated and stop at the grub truck on Main Street. After ordering some food, Kaylee calls for a student ride share to pick just herself and Maddie up. At 1:45 a.m., Xana and Ethan return to 1122 King Road and head to her bedroom. At 1:56 a.m., Maddie and Kaylee arrive back at the house, and Kaylee decides to sleep in Maddie's room as she didn't want to disturb her dog. She kept the door closed. At 2:26 a.m., Kaylee tries calling her ex-boyfriend Jack Decor 6 times in 30 minutes, and Maddie tries calling him 3 times. All calls go to voicemail. At 3 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie go to bed, but Xana and Ethan are still up, and she orders food from DoorDash and scrolls through TikTok. At 4 a.m., Xana receives her order from DoorDash and returns to her room. At approximately 4:06 a.m., the unsub enters 1122 King Road through the sliding glass doors on the second floor off the kitchen and goes up the stairs to Maddie's bedroom. Dylan wakes up because she hears Murphy barking and thumps above her. Thinking Kaylee's playing with her dog, she yells, "Calm down," and the dog does. Dylan gets up and opens her door to listen for more noise, but she sees and hears nothing and closes the door. A few minutes later, she hears another commotion and what sounds like Xana crying and a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Dylan opens her door again, but sees nothing. She decides to open her door one more time, and this time she freezes as she sees a man. She remained quiet, and he leaves through the sliding door. Dylan shuts the door and locks it. At 4:20, in just 16 minutes, it's all over. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call comes from the residence and on Dylan Morton's cell phone, but it's not her or Bethany. It's a male friend of Ethan's who called to report an unconscious person. At 12 p.m., Moscow Police Department arrive on the scene and enter the house, and they reported immediately the smell of blood. They find Ethan and Xana soaked...
Wait, the smell of blood?
There's a distinctive smell of blood. And there was so much of it. I'm getting to the worst part of it right now.
God.
They find Ethan and Xana soaked in blood in her bedroom, and it's so bad that it's actually dripping down the cement foundation outside of her bedroom, and outside. And then they go up to the 3rd floor to find Maddie and Kaylee in Maddie's bedroom, also soaked in blood.
How many liters of blood do we have?
I believe it's 6 ounces. Something like that.
6 ounces.
Not 6 ounces. 6 quarts. That's it.
Okay.
Hold on.
It's 6 quarts, I think.
6 quarts would be like 4 liters times 6, like 20.
How much blood is in the average human body?
According to Red Cross blood donation, the amount of blood in a person's body depends on their size. The bigger the person's body is, the more blood it will contain. A newborn baby's body will contain...
Oh. The
Epic
screen fell
fail.
asleep. 1.2 to 1.5 gallons or 10 units.
Okay.
For 150 to 180 pound adult.
Well, let's just put it this way. Ethan was 6'4" and a big dude. So what I don't get is the 911 call, which I will touch on more.
Why is it so much later if they knew that something was wrong?
She didn't check, I guess. She just didn't check. And I will go into the whole Dylan Mortensen thing later, but why an unconscious person? Because there had to be blood trails within the house for them to say, "Oh shit, we need to call 911." And they asked for police, not ambulance. Because the ambulance never showed. It was the police department that showed up. So we might not know more. Maybe we have to hear the 911 call and we won't find that out until trial. So.
Is this a current ongoing case?
Yes.
Oh. I see.
Yeah. So the evidence collection is, it proves to be very difficult at this house because it was a party house. So the police had actually been called there about at least 3 or 4 times in the months from August to this time with noise complaints from all the parties. In fact, people came and went all the time. A lot of people had the keypad, the keypad locks. A lot of them had the code to the house. So collecting evidence was really hard because a lot of the times there was parties going on and none of the residents were even there. They managed to lift a shoe print that looked to be from a Vans shoe inside of the house. If the police found out the size of the shoe, they did not release that information publicly. They dusted for prints, they swabbed for DNA, they took over 1,000 photos, they canvassed the neighborhood for witnesses and security footage. They searched the woods, went through trash cans and dumpsters. At discovery was made next to Maddie's body. It was in her comforter, just under her body, kind of wrapped in the comforter, just folded under. It was a tan leather knife sheath with a U.S. Marine Corps insignia stamped in the leather. And it was for a K-bar type knife, which was found. Not the knife, but the sheath. Search warrants for sale information was served for buyers for a K-bar knife. It was sent out to sales for information to local retailers, Walmart, Amazon, and eBay. They knew that the knife was a military-style knife with a stacked leather washer grip for better control when hands are wet, and the sheath was sent away for DNA testing. Dozens of warrants were issued to obtain access to the victim's browsing history, social media, and cell phone records, as well as to Google, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, Tinder, Snapchat, and iCloud. All their banking, credit card, Venmo, PayPal, and point-of-sale records were also searched, including all food delivery services, especially DoorDash. The Moscow PD obtained a lot of security footage from neighbors and businesses in the area of King Road. And what they got was, at 3:29 to 4 a.m., a white sedan was picked up 3 times, going past the house really slow. At 4:04, the same car was seen again, also going slow, but then never be seen turning around. What? At 4:20, the same car was seen leaving the King Road area at a high rate of speed. The FBI were given the footage, and using a special database, they were able to say that the car was a 2013 to 2017 white Hyundai Elantra. So police managed to collect over 103 pieces of evidence. 4,000 photographs were taken of the crime scene. 3D scans of the house was also taken, and processed over 1,000 tips and conducted 150 interviews. Police were also able to clear roommates Dylan and Bethany, Kaylee's ex-boyfriend Jack DeCoeur, Maddie's boyfriend Jake, Jack Showalter, the DoorDash driver, the rideshare driver, the individual who were at the house that morning when police arrived, and even anyone that the police believed had come into contact with any of the victims that weekend. They even looked into the possibility that Kaylee may have had a stalker, which was a concern of hers, but the police were unable to corroborate that.
Stop.
Police were able to determine that the murders took place between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., eventually narrowing the window down from 4 to 4:20 a.m. There was no forced entry, robbery, or sexual assault. There was no blood trail outside of the house, and a single weapon with a fixed long blade was used. Have anything? No?
A fixed long blade? Are they talking like a machete?
No, K-bar. It's a military-style knife, about yay big.
Oh.
Yeah. Not now, Kevin. So, this is where I wanted to get into the discussion about the witness. So, the only witness was Dylan Mortensen. She was awakened around 2 a.m. when the girls and Ethan arrived home, but went back to bed. She was then alerted later by noises above her, poked her head out twice, but saw nothing. Some reports said 3 times. Then she heard crying and a man's voice, like I had mentioned earlier. When she poked out her head again, this time she saw a man leaving, and she described him as being about 6 feet, dressed in dark clothing, wearing mask that covers the lower part of his face from the nose down and has bushy eyebrows. She did not call 911. She did not go and check to see if her friends were awake and okay, and never looked out her bedroom window, but knew enough to lock her bedroom door. In the morning, she called Ethan's fraternity brother, Hunter Johnson, who came over with other fraternity members, and it was Hunter who called 911 from Dylan's phone. And my thing is that I'm not blaming her, but I do have issues with this because, I'm sorry, we all react differently in fear and in trauma, but I wouldn't have been able to resist at least looking out my bedroom window to make sure that the person was gone.
I wouldn't have been able to go back. I wouldn't have been able to sleep.
Yeah. Something would have felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know? Like, and the other thing is, too, I would also, like, call the police to report an intruder because there was somebody in the house that you didn't recognize. So why would you just let that fucking go? So I do have issues with this, and she might get ripped apart on the stand.
But even if, like you said, it was a party house and people were in and out all the time, you wouldn't go in for a party wearing a mask, covering your face.
Well, like some of these fraternity parties get kind of crazy, right? And wearing masks and whatever might be like part of a goofy drunken game they play or a tradition they have where they, you know, I don't know, wear a mask or put a mask on an initiate or something like that. And, you know, you're not allowed to show your face around here until you're, you know, actually a member, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they get weird stuff in fraternities. And
True. And I mean, if they've been drinking, their decision making is not going to be the best. But at the same
it's
time,
like, why
you'd figure
did the
hearing
guy...
a commotion would sober you.
Yeah.
And crying.
But, like, you know, a guy walking by in a horse mask, commonplace, right? So, like, just...
COVID mask, like those kinds?
Yeah.
Well,
it was 2022.
yeah, so you never know.
So he wears a mask to go kill people?
Well, you don't want to...
his face.
You don't want to get any blood on you.
I think it's kind of funny that he chose a COVID mask because it's like not...
Well, it was like a black face mask, like the ones that we would wear when we go to the doctor's office.
White, like in scary movies.
No, but I can be like, oh, I can't catch COVID, but I can go take some lives.
I think it was more to obscure the bottom part of his
Yes.
face so that if he did get seen, it would be harder to...
Or if it was actual scary movie mask.
Okay.
Then it'd be like
So how DNA and investigative genetic genealogy and how they track the unsub. Whoops, that's not where the ashtray was. So the knife sheath was swabbed for touch DNA. And basically, if a finger even so much as brushes across the strap or the snap of the sheath, there's a chance that epithelials will have been transferred to it. The swab was sent off for testing. And it came back as a single male donor with the sample coming from just under the snap. The DNA hits need about 750 to 1,000 nanograms to be able to run for genetic testing. Only 100 nanograms, or approximately 20 cells, were found on the snap. They made it work, though. So they ran it through CODIS, but there was no matches. So the FBI sent the DNA to Othram Labs in Texas for tests run by founders, Drs. Kevin and Kristen Middleman, for genetic genealogy. Moscow Police Department also sent all the car footage to the FBI in Quantico. They ran it through a special software to help determine that it was a Hyundai Elantra. First, they said it was a 2011 to 2013. After running the footage some more, they said it was 2011 to 2016, and then narrowing it down to 2014 to 2016. And this might cause issues during trial as well.
Yeah, the undecisiveness.
Yeah. So the Moscow Police Department put a bolo alert out on a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra. On November 29th, Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, campus police spotted a car that matched the bolo and discovered it belonged to a WSU grad student living in an off-campus apartment complex. The car was a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra, and the information on the car and the owner and the plate number were sent to Moscow Police Department. But because the car was a 2015, the MPD just filed it away. Bad move. So next was checking the cell phone towers around King Road to see if there's any activity with the cell phones that may match up to any owners who have a Hyundai Elantra. Unfortunately, they came up with no results. I think that would be like looking for a needle in a haystack, if you ask me. So, Othram Labs was able to get a genetic profile off the DNA. So they uploaded it into a commercial DNA site database and sent the information back to Quantico, where the FBI painstakingly made a family tree from birth records, obituaries, newspaper articles, and court records. So the tree led to the marriage of Henrietta Catherine Votino of New York to a Michael Francis Koberger, down to the birth of his son, Brian Christopher Koberger, who was born in Pennsylvania on November 21st, 1994. So now the FBI had the name of a person of interest on December 11th, but decides to keep this information to themselves for reasons unknown. Is most likely to obtain more information on their subject.
Not scare them off.
Yeah. There was a lot of coincidences about Brian Koberger. He was a 28-year-old PhD student in criminology at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, just 10 miles away from Moscow, Idaho, and he drove a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. The FBI needed more before they could loop in the Moscow police, so they set up surveillance on Koberger. On December 12th, Brian and his father, Michael, who had flown out to drive with his son back to Pennsylvania for the holidays, left Brian's apartment, and the FBI began to follow him. Instead of taking the I-90 all the way, Brian decided to go south, making the trip even longer. The FBI lost Koberger until an automatic license plate reader in Loma, Colorado picked them up again. In Indiana, Brian was pulled over by the sheriff's office. The FBI were shitting themselves at this point. Not sure what to do, because he also had somebody in the car. It could be a hostage situation, but he was actually pulled over for tailgating and was let go with a warning. 10 minutes later, he was pulled over again this time by Indiana State Police for the same thing. And again, he's let go with a warning. Can you imagine the FBI right now, right, shitting their bricks, being pulled over twice in 10 minutes? So December 16th at 2:30, Brian and Michael arrived in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, in the middle-class gated community where the family lived. On December 19th, the FBI loops in the Moscow police. Moscow police type in Koberger's license plate, bringing up his driver's license, which listed Brian as 6 foot, 185 pounds, and he had bushy eyebrows, and drove a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra. He had actually been stopped for a traffic violation in August, and the report had his cell phone number on it. So Corporal Payne began the process to get Koberger's cell phone data.
Is this in Moscow or
Moscow, Idaho.
They're never organized.
What, please?
In every single true crime episode I sit in, I'm always frustrated. And I'm like, what in God's name are these people thinking?
Yeah, the police you see on TV are not the police that are actually out there.
Like, what is, like, I don't
A lot of the times it's waiting on warrants, waiting on having enough evidence to be able to obtain a warrant. You know? So you have to wait to get a warrant for the cell phone data. You have to wait to get a warrant to search his car. You have to get a separate warrant if he's got a house and a garage that's separate. Like,
okay, well then they need to fix this shit.
And you have to present a certain amount of evidence to the judge in order to get the warrant to get more evidence.
Well, then they
So
need
it's
to,
kind of
like,
ass backwards.
organize
But
this.
yeah, they do.
They really need to get on it.
Too much litigation.
It is. It's all, hey, got to cover our ass right before the trial. So the cell phone data and Koberger's movements. This is why I had to read it, honey. I know you hate it when I read, but this one's freaking nothing but times. So his phone, and I'm not going to say Koberger, I'm going to say his phone, pinged off a tower near his apartment at 2:45 a.m. on November 13th. And then the phone began traveling south at 2:47 a.m. before the phone was either turned off or switched to airport mode. Then the phone comes back online at 4:48 a.m. south of Moscow. The pinging showed that Koberger's phone took a circuitous route back to Pullman, where his phone pings at 5:30 a.m. At 9 a.m., the phone leaves Pullman, and at 9:12 a.m., pings off a cell tower that services King Road until 9:21 a.m. So for some reason, he went back to the crime scene. Just before noon, the phone left Pullman again and traveled south, retracing some of the route the phone took earlier that morning. At 12:36 p.m., his phone pinged at a coffee shop in Clarkson, Washington, right across from the Snake River. The Snake River has a really good current that runs right into the ocean. Then it pinged at a grocery store for 15 minutes and leaving the grocery store at 1 p.m. Then the phone was turned off for 4.5 hours. At 5:32 p.m., it pinged in a farming community heading in the direction of Pullman, and it pinged at the same location from 5:32 p.m. to 5:36 p.m. And then the phone is off for 3 hours until it's turned back on in Pullman. So the police decide to go further back in Koberger's cell records and discover that his phone's pinged off that tower that services the King Road home at least on 12 other occasions before the murder. Now, Matt, I have questions for you.
Okay.
Are cell phone towers similar to Wi-Fi towers?
The term that you called it a Wi-Fi tower was already incorrect.
Okay. So you know what I mean, right?
So everything is obviously broadcast on a frequency, and depending on what kind of frequencies you're playing in, because like cell phone towers are different than our radio internet towers. They're on a different frequency. You know, that kind of, so like in some respects they're the same, in some respects they're not. It's all on the technology.
Okay. Well, let's say if a tower is servicing one targeted area and it becomes busy with a lot of activity, could it ping from a different one? Like
depending
one
on the
tower
infrastructure, yes.
Yeah, say one's targeting a fraternity and the tower that's servicing the area, that area is exceptionally busy. So the phone pings to the next closest one, say King Road. Or is it unlikely you would get that service?
So usually networks aren't set up with redundancies unless it's through cabling. So for example, if power goes down on one route to get your house power, it might reroute a second direction. But if it comes off at a spot where it's, you know, doesn't even get to that rerouting section, then you're just out of power, right?
Okay, so in your opinion, How accurate do you believe these pings
So,
are?
for example, we have a tower that covers a specific campground. If that tower goes down, that only affects the campground. They won't start picking up our other towers. So unless the company that was pinging had a redundancy where they had overlapping signals of towers, that's the only way that that would even be possible. And with cell phone, it's easy to do that because they have such a wider range than our silly internet, right?
So in your opinion, how accurate do you believe these pings are?
They are probably true to where the phone is,
Yeah.
because they usually ping the MAC address, not the IP address. So,
Okay, moving on. So police also check all the surveillance videos that they have and line it up with the cell pings or lack thereof. Like I said, we're going to go through the frickin' video footage again. Between 3:29 a.m. and 4 a.m., a white Elantra was seen on at least 3 different surveillance cameras, making 3 slow passes around 1122 King Road. It's caught again at 4:04 a.m. and then nothing until 4:20 when it's caught again on camera. But instead of moving slow, it's driving away very fast. On a video camera from an apartment complex near King Road up on, I think it's Linda something, you can hear the tires squealing and the acceleration of the vehicle at 4:20 a.m. You can find that video on the YouTube. All of this electronic data and the DNA based from the IGG is not enough to obtain an arrest warrant or a search warrant. They need a definitive piece of evidence to directly link Brian Koberger to the murders. We're going back to not enough evidence.
yeah. And just because the cell phone pings there doesn't mean they're there.
Right. So it's hit or miss, right? It's good evidence, but not great evidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So let's go on to the arrest, shall we? In Pennsylvania, the FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police have kept watch on Koberger's movements, and he was observed vacuuming his car while wearing surgical gloves with his family's shop vac. And he was also seen taking trash to neighbors' trash cans in the middle of the night.
That's not suspicious at all.
At all, right?
Yeah, don't be suspicious.
So police watched closely, and on December 27th, they were able to grab 2 plastic bags from the Koberger's trash cans and sent it with expedited it back to Idaho for the forensic testing at the state lab, and they were able to lift several DNA samples and tested it against the DNA from the sheath. They didn't get an exact match, but what they did have was DNA sample from the father of the individual who had touched the knife sheath with a conclusive 99.9998%. Now they had enough for their warrant.
Nope. You need that rest of the percent.
On December 30th, 2022, after midnight in the darkness, 40 officers stormed the Koberger home, breaking down doors and windows. They discovered Koberger in the kitchen wearing shorts and a t-shirt and surgical gloves, separating his personal trash into Ziploc bags. They took him into custody to await extradition back to Idaho. Oh, wait, you look at me. It gets weirder. Koberger gets weirder.
Okay, so right now I can tell you that it sounds like he's a germaphobe with a touch of OCD.
You don't say.
And a little bit of psychopath. The way that his brain seems to be working.
Allegedly.
Allegedly?
Allegedly.
He's
That's our
not
favorite word.
guilty yet. So, let's look at who Brian Koberger is and his behavior before and after the murders, shall we?
Okay.
This might give you some enlightenment.
Enlightenment.
Him.
Enlighten me.
So, Brian Koberger grew up in a middle-class home and was the youngest of 3. His parents were Michael and Marianne, and he had 2 older sisters.
All that did it right there.
Right there. He was bullied throughout his school years, was overweight, smart but very quiet, had very few friends who were also bullied. He also claims that he was suffering from visual snow syndrome, which is seeing flickering black dots or other visual disturbances and after images that coincide with migraines. Migraines are 60% common, as is depression, anxiety, and isolation. Koberger joined an online group with other visual snow sufferers, saying that demons in his head were mocking him. And in a July 2011 post, he wrote, quote, "I've had this horrible depersonalization in my life for almost 2 years. As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It's like I'm looking at a video game, but less. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing, unquote. You want to unpack that or not yet?
I think I know what that is. I just need to... You keep talking.
Okay.
Get the term correct.
To help this in high school, he lost over 100 pounds, changed his diet completely, and was obsessive about it, and became a vegan. He was so obsessed with veganism that he actually had to have his own cookware, plates, and cutlery because his food could not touch any meat or dead animals. He also had plastic surgery to remove all the loose skin and get things tucked in. He then became a bully, even bullying his own friends from before. He always wanted to be the smartest person in the room and asserted dominance over everyone. Brian was also taking special law enforcement classes while still in high school, but was apparently kicked out of the program for reasons that apparently cannot be disclosed. I'm guessing those will come up at trial. He also got into using heroin. He would eventually go to rehab after he lost a few friends who were using. My notes changed using into useless. Sorry. Not sorry. Kohlberger then enrolled in Northampton Community College, and by 24 he had earned his associate's degree in psychology. He then enrolled at DeSales University, where he got his bachelor's in psychology, and decided to remain at DeSales for his master's, but shifted his focus to criminal justice and studied under the renowned Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a forensic psychologist who had worked very closely with Dennis Rader. You guys would know him as BTK, and together they wrote a book about him. Not Brian, but BTK and Dr. Ramsland. His track record with the ladies wasn't very good. He never dated in high school. Most girls thought Brian was weird and creepy. And I kind of told this story to Matt the other day. So in 2015, he met a girl on Tinder. She was also socially awkward and everything too. So they were kind of like a match. Everything was going well. They went back to her apartment. She didn't invite him up, but he kind of just came up anyways. And they were watching Netflix, and he kept trying to touch her, and she kept pulling away, like, no, don't touch me. And so she got up to try. She didn't know how to get rid of him. So she got up and went to the bathroom, and she faked throwing up. And he was standing at the door listening, and then finally he just left and texted her, sorry, I'm leaving. And then like a couple days later, he texted her and says, you've got great birthing hips. And that was the last time she talked to him. Who says that?
Well, I know one guy.
You can see Nancy's face right now. Yeah. On a Dateline episode, a DeSales classmate named Madison, more on her later, said that she and her friends would catch Brian staring at them, but didn't think it was creepy, just Brian being Brian. Kind of like that whole adage, boys being boys. Right? After obtaining his master's in criminal justice, he decided to go to Washington State University for his PhD. Tried to get a job at the Pullman Police Department, stating that he was interested in collecting data for some agricultural, rural something area. I can't remember what it was exactly, but he didn't get the job. He did, however, get a teacher assistantship at his university. And he was not an easy TA. He was actually a dick. He marked everyone very harshly. He always left comments, and he was rude and condescending, mansplained things to the female students. He also made disparaging remarks regarding the LGBTQ plus community and made the female undergrads feel very uncomfortable. And they complained. So he was also reprimanded multiple times by the professor he was assigned to, as well as the department heads. They actually set him up. Yeah, they set him up on a program that he had to follow in order to keep his job. No job meant no financial means to continue on his PhD program. So a colleague of his went home one night to discover that her home had been broken into, but nothing was taken. Furniture and items had just been moved around. But instead of calling police, she actually mentions this to Brian Kohlberger, who suggests that she gets a video security system and offers to set it up for her, and does. This, of course, would give him full access to her Wi-Fi information. So who's to say that he's not sitting outside her house with his tablet, spying on her, right? Once a voyeur, always a voyeur. Before leaving for winter break, he followed a female student to her car, and it scared her so bad that she complained, which was the last straw for the university. The university sent a letter to Kohlberger firing him from his teacher assistantship, which he hadn't received before leaving with his father for that track across the country back to Pennsylvania. But his behaviors after the murders of Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan changed. His undergrad students said he wouldn't participate in discussions about the case. He looked tired, disheveled, and when he marked their stuff, he no longer left comments and gave everybody 100%. He just seemed very preoccupied. All you.
Gave everybody 100%.
Everybody.
Okay, so
Great
before,
year that year.
What you're saying sounds a lot like antisocial personality disorder,
Yep.
and that is characterized by a limited capacity for empathy and a long-term pattern of disregard for or violation of the rights of others, and starts around the age of 15.
And
Other names is sociopathy. Also sounds like there is some narcissism in there.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I understand, personality disorders are similar to when I learned about the learning disabilities. It's like the Olympic rings, so they all kind of overlap.
Yeah.
Because there's no blood test for these kind of things. It's all,
Neurological.
you have 7 out of these 10, and you have 6 out of this. So
You have to go through some severe neurological testing.
yes, but it's very difficult to be diagnosed with a personality disorder because it's not an easy genetic testing kind of thing.
now I want to bring up something about the Wi-Fi thing that you were saying. Him setting up the cameras, him having access to the router. Yes, he will be able to pick up on their Wi-Fi. That's not the thing you got to worry about. He can now remote in from wherever he is. He doesn't
even have to be.
He doesn't even have to be there.
Yeah, I think bet you money he's done it. They're looking into it apparently. I haven't heard more about it.
That also would give him a sense of superiority.
I get
Dominance.
people calling me.
Dominance, yeah,
I
superiority.
get people calling me all the time. Hey, my cameras just went out up at my cottage. Is the internet down? And I'm like, yes, it is. Oh, okay. Is there anything wrong? I'm like, it looks like you just need a reboot. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not there, so I'll have to go there tomorrow. And half the time they go there, they restart things, and away it goes. Lightning strikes things, screw
Well, that's
things
like when
up,
you're
and-
working your Ring camera or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, but when you have access to the router, you have really opened your door. You might as well have given them your wallet.
Pretty much. And all your PIN numbers and...
if they know what they're doing, yeah, they can monitor all traffic if they put in the right settings.
The awkwardness sounds a lot like somebody with ADHD mixed in there. Autism tend to be socially awkward.
I'm socially awkward. I don't have autism.
There you do.
You got some ADHD in there.
No, I don't. Score.
The interesting part about the behavior
OCD, yes.
after.
Mhm.
So when you look at behavior before and behavior after, a need was met. So, and all behaviors have an underlying need or a function.
Yeah.
And so when you fulfill that need, the behavior lessens or changes. So the need was fulfilled, and that's why he was off and different.
Yeah.
That's my take on it, anyway.
What we got now?
Let's talk about the victims, because I was going to skip this actually, but I can't because it kind of coincides with part of it later. So let's talk about Kaylee Concalves. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. She was the middle of 5 children.
Is it Gonzalez?
No, it's Concalves. Calvs, like calves. Concalves. Up here. I had it right before. I don't know why I can't do it now. Probably the wine. She was born to... Yeah, she was born to Steve and Krista in Concord, California, and they moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She was adventurous and had an incredible sense of humor, friendly, outgoing, mischievous, and a solid student. As I had mentioned earlier, she had met Madison Mogan in the 6th grade, and Maddie quickly became an honorary Concalves and joined them on many family vacations. Together, they went to the University of Idaho, but pledged in different sororities. Kaylee pledged to the Alpha Phi. Her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jack DeCoeur, and her shared a golden doodle named Murphy, and she was 22. Madison Mogan went by Maddie. She was the only child and lived with her parents in Eugene, Oregon until she was about 2. Ben and Karen separated once they moved to Coeur d'Alene, and because of Ben's drug use, Karen remarried to Scott Laramie, who became a proud stepfather to Maddie. Ben and his girlfriend, I think actually he might have been his wife, had some run-ins with the law on drug-related charges. Maddie loved dancing on the playground at school or pretending to be a fairy. She was smart and funny, adventurous, and she excelled academically and was helpful to others. She joined the Pi Beta Phi sorority at the University of Idaho, where she majored in marketing and was on the dean's list every semester. Maddie and her boyfriend Jake Schringer I think that's his last name, would go to parties and concerts together, and she was also 22. Xana Kernodle had a much different upbringing than her roommates and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin. She had a sister who was 2 years older, and her parents were in and out of jail for her early life on drug-related issues. Xana and her sister Jasmine lived with their aunt Kim for 2 years, and Xana would often play jokes on her aunt at bedtime. Her mother Kara was frequently incarcerated, while her father Jeff turned his life around and began building a life with his 2 daughters, staying clean and out of trouble. Xana was witty, athletic, engaging, and funny. She chose gymnastics as her sport of choice, but she also played soccer, volleyball, and ran track. Like Maddie, she had pledged to the Pi Beta Phi sorority at the University of Idaho, and they both worked together at the Mad Greek restaurant in Moscow. Ethan was her first and only boyfriend, and she was welcomed by the Chapins with open arms. She was 20. Ethan was the eldest of triplets born to Jim and Stacy. Hunter, then Maisie followed, each 2 minutes apart. They were raised in Mount Vernon, Washington, and his parents owned their own business and were quite well off. Ethan was very active. He played golf, tennis, club soccer, basketball, and surfed. He loved country music and loved to dance. He was 6'4", so he was a big, tall guy. He was a hard worker, and he was great with children. And all 3 Chapin triplets went to the University of Idaho, where Ethan pledged to the Sigma Chi fraternity. He was 20.
That's impressive for triplets.
This sounds like a lot of expensive people.
Yeah. But not all of them had the best background, though, either.
No, but when money's involved, there's not usually the best background.
Well, I don't think Maddie and Xana's families were super well off. So, all right. So the search warrant was served at Koberger's parents' home and for his car in Pennsylvania. Law enforcement removed several handguns, knives, black gloves, black face masks, size 13 athletic shoes, medical-style gloves, computer and cell equipment, shop vac, and from his Elantra they took out shovel, gloves, hiking boots, goggles, the seats and cushions of the vehicles, a door panel and headrest, gas and brake pedals. He was held in Monroe County Correctional Facility without bond until an extradition hearing was to be held to have him returned to Idaho. Law enforcement also searched his Pullman, Washington apartment and collected black examination gloves designed to resist puncturing and chemicals, the dust container from his vacuum cleaner, several strands of hair, possible animal hair, and no, he had no animals of his own. Receipts from Marshalls and Walmart, including a tag from a Dickies brand work coveralls, computer tower, stained mattress cover, cuttings from an uncased pillow with reddish-brownish stains. They also noted what wasn't in the apartment. All the trash cans were completely empty, which is not uncommon when you're going away. You empty the trash cans, right? Why would you leave them? But there was also no shower curtain, and his apartment was decorated very sparsely. Almost looked like nobody lived there. They also did not find a K-bar knife, bloody clothes, or the Dickies brand coveralls. His extradition hearing was held on January 3rd, 2023, where he waived his right to a hearing and agreed to go back, stating that he was anxious to prove his innocence. By January 4th, he was back in Idaho and taken to the Latah County Jail. January 5th, Koberger stood before the Idaho court for the first time with public defender Ann Taylor as Judge Megan Marshall read his charges to him. 1 count of unlawful entry, 4 counts of murder in the first degree. She also informed him that if convicted, the maximum penalty is life in prison or the death penalty by lethal injection or by firing squad if they could not obtain the drugs for the lethal injection. Judge Marshall asked if he understood, to which he replied yes, he did. He was then denied bail and is also served with a non-contact order preventing him from communicating with Dylan Mortensen, Bethany Funk, and the families of the victims. Judge Marshall also ordered a non-dissemination order, also known as a gag order, preventing authorities, lawyers, families from speaking up publicly about the case in order to maintain the integrity of the case and not to prejudice the future jury pool. Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father, and a dozen of media outlets tried to sue to have this order removed. So we've gone over this with, I think it was the Delphi case and how they sued them to have the dissemination order removed. I don't think people understand the importance of why this gag order is in place in the first place.
Well, it's to keep people from being biased. So, for example, when I'm on YouTube, I'm getting more conservative-leaning things than I would like. Mm-hmm. You know, I would like to have both stories. But because you clicked on that one, now that's all they're giving you. They're like, okay, he's under this category. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. But, yeah.
You have to, not everything needs to be made public for multiple reasons. One, if Koberger happens to be in jail and he's talking to somebody like another inmate, and he let something slip about the case that has not been made public. That's called guilt knowledge. That inmate can in turn go to the police, say, hey, this is what Koberger said. I don't want anything for it. I can be a witness, blah, blah, blah.
Well, my point with the other one is that you don't know what kind of information the future jurors that have not been picked have already found out for themselves, right?
That's where the integrity comes in.
Yeah, and
there's so many reasons.
There's so many reasons. Yeah, just hearing it, like I said, coming from one political party rather than another, even if it is about the same case, you're going to get two different stories. That's not going to persuade that future juror, and that future juror might just continue to vote that way despite what actually happened on the trial.
This is what the media told me, you know? So yeah, it's to prevent that. And with a case as high profile, I mean, we're in Canada. I didn't even know there was a Moscow, Idaho until this case. I don't know if you guys did.
No idea.
You know?
No.
Like, when I heard, I'm like, Moscow, why are we talking about Russia? And then I'm like, Moscow, Idaho, what the fuck? And now it's become one of those cases that I'm following, like, almost religiously, because it just grabbed me. And I'm like, we're in Canada. We have nothing to do with that university. We have no idea who these people are. And now they've entered into our lives through media and stuff because it's become such a high-profile case. And I think whether you keep information quiet or on the DL from the media and to the public, it's still going to be such a high profile case. You're going to be very hard to find a completely impartial jury anywhere, especially in the state of Idaho where it's happening. So we'll probably get to that more too. So the probable cause affidavit was made public, which made mention of the familial DNA match, vehicle, and cell phone data information, which is why I had all that, because it was made public. A new judge was assigned to preside over the case, Judge John Judge. Yes, his last name is Judge. Judge. During an arraignment hearing where Koberger was to enter his plea of guilty or not guilty, Koberger decided to stand silent, which means by not entering any plea, it is up to the judge to enter the plea of an automatic innocent or not guilty into the court record.
Oh, really? From the judges?
A plea has to be entered, but if you stand silent, they have to enter a not guilty or an innocent plea.
Not guilty or innocent plea?
It's the same thing, right?
Until
proven guilty.
Oh, okay. Makes sense, yeah.
Now for the fun part. The alibi. It took 16 months for Koberger's alibi to be entered into his defense. By law, they need to enter one before a certain point, but are not required to use it during or part of their during the trial or part of their defense. So they entered it in case they want to use it. So in April 2024, Ann Taylor told the court during one of the pretrial hearings that Brian Koberger's alibi was, quote, driving around like he often does to look at the moon and stars and sometimes hike trails. Okay, well, there's some problems with this for more than one reason. One, it was cold as hell and icy and snowy. I looked this up on the Farmer's Almanac. It was a very overcast night, so you're not going to see fuck all, even in, like, the desolate area of Idaho, like Moscow, Idaho. And this is not an alibi. So the Oxford Dictionary says, noun, for alibi, a noun, a claim or piece of evidence that one was elsewhere when an act, especially a criminal one, is alleged to have taken place. Verb, offer an excuse or defense for someone, especially by providing an account of their whereabouts at the time of an alleged act. So one, you need a witness who can vouch for you, and having more than one is better. Or you have to have evidence like video surveillance at a coffee shop or receipts or digital evidence of any kind that are time-stamped. Not an alibi.
That's like saying, because I took the mail out of my mailbox on Thursday, that's when the guy sent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have somebody.
You have to have something to vouch for you. If you say, hey, listen, at 4:20 or at 4:15 a.m., I was all the way in Clarkston, Washington. Here's my receipt at the gas station. Yeah. That would be a valid alibi because you'd also more than likely be on surveillance camera at the same time as presenting a receipt timestamp that would match the surveillance camera. Driving alone in your car, no matter how often you fucking do it, not an alibi. That's just a habit.
Yeah, that's just you by yourself.
So if we're saying that he has antisocial personality disorder, a little bit of narcissism.
Maybe he wasn't by himself.
No.
Oh no, he is by himself.
He's by himself.
Like a me, myself, and Irene kind of situation.
He would be he'd be like, no, I'm innocent. And he would justify his behavior.
And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, he would justify it. Because to him, it was like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with violating somebody else's rights. I took what was mine. Now, when you look at the type of people that the victims were, popular, pretty, part of sororities and that kind of thing,
high society,
and fraternities. And so somebody that was an outcast would look at that and want it.
Yeah.
Because that is societal norm.
Yeah.
You want what you can't have.
Yay, societal norm.
So there's other issues. Ann Taylor is one of the busiest public defenders in Latah County and one of the only ones who has death penalty experience. But she was representing Cara Knodel, Xana's mother, at the time Brian Koberger's case fell into her lap. She also had represented Maddie Mogan's father and stepmother a few times as well. To me, this is a major conflict of interest. Granted, she wasn't representing Maddie's father and stepmother at the time, and she dropped Cara Knodel's case, which was then given to another public defender. But Taylor is armed with the material about 2 out of the 4 victims' families. And as she defends their alleged killer, she could bring Xana and Maddie's family history into court.
Yeah, because she has prior knowledge.
Hopefully not, because that would be a huge violation of privacy.
The judge could also throw it out and say it's irrelevant, has nothing to do with this current case.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be the
But it speaks to the victims' backgrounds,
thing to
and
do.
a lot of the times defense attorneys will attack the victims.
Hopefully Judge can live up to his name.
You just want to say, Judge.
And say live up to his name, because that's
He's
gold.
in the right line of work.
Yeah. He did it.
High five!
So overall, before I go into my theory, I want to hear what you guys have to
Theory?
say about this case. What?
Carry on.
I want to hear what you guys have to say about this case before I go into my theory.
They're obviously not telling us everything because there's so much missing.
And that's normal. They don't have to tell us everything.
Not understanding who, what, where, why, when kind of thing, because there's no account of anybody seeing anybody except for a dude in a mask. And a couple, rustlings upstairs, and you're thinking it's the dog. So, I don't know. For one, I find having your doors open to just any Tom, Dick, or Harry that used to live there and still does is already a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
And having people come and go from your house when you're not even there?
Yeah. That already, that's kind of setting yourself up for an oopsie daisy.
But that also would make sense to me then that they didn't rush to see what was going on. Because they're like, oh, somebody, people come and go all the time.
Someone could have come in and said, you know what, the sorority screwed me. I didn't hit the job I wanted to after university. I was picked on here. It was a rough go. I'm going to come in and show what this, fraternity, what the heck I'm made of, and go and start killing off members and stuff like that. And bugger off. You never know, right? Like, there could be so many different variations of what could have happened because there's not enough story.
Are you going to talk about the connection that we spoke about?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
go
my
ahead.
theory.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's hit my theory, okay? So, if Brian Koberger did do this, if, then why? So, of course, this is only speculation. Is it possible?
Allegedly.
Yes. Is it possible? Yes, allegedly. But is it possible he didn't do it? Sure. Allegedly. But let's go with what we know. Allegedly, Brian Koberger left Pullman at his apartment at 163 Northeast Valley Road. And is 9.8 miles or 18 minutes from 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Thank you, Google Maps. His phone pinged last before being turned off at 2:47 a.m. Maddie and Kaylee went to bed at approximately 3 a.m. They know this from their cell phone data nothing being used on their cell phone activities. Her bedroom window faced the back of the house and could be seen from the apartment building parking lot that's up the hill of their backyard. Koberger at the earliest would have made it to the house around 3:05, maybe 3:10 at the latest, but the first sighting of the Hyundai Elantra was caught at 3:29 near King Road. It was not seen in that apartment parking lot until around 4 a.m., where it stopped and then turned around. An hour since Maddie and Kaylee went to bed, so the bedroom lights would be out. You wouldn't be able to see inside the bedroom. There would be no way to know that Kaylee was asleep in the same bedroom as Maddie. The house is not laid out well. and was complicated, but if Koberger had been watching the house, he could have easily seen the inside, as in the evenings, the girls leave the lights on, and they very rarely close their window coverings. And Maddie had a large pink M in her bedroom window. Plus, the roommates did TikToks all over the house all the time. And with all the parties going on, he used to say that he didn't just walk into the house and because of the amount of people there, went unnoticed and walked the layout. We don't know. And he's never going to tell you. Allegedly. Allegedly, Koberger would have had to go to the back, open the sliding door off the kitchen, go to the stairs, which is right next to Dylan Mortenson's bedroom, and go up the stairs. Then he would have had to turn away from Kaylee's bedroom and walk down the short hall into Maddie's bedroom, which is right over Dylan's room. Once done in there, he would have had to walk down the stairs, ignoring both Dylan and Kaylee's bedrooms again. And I guess he must have had a shock when he found Kaylee in there. I don't think he expected that. He probably ran into Xana or Ethan and followed them back to Xana's room through the living room and finished with them, and then walked past Dylan's room again and headed straight out the sliding glass doors, which is when she saw him. It is in my honest opinion, and I have believed this since the beginning, that Maddie Mogan was his target. What solidified my theory was the Dateline episode, The Killings on King Road, where a young lady who I had mentioned earlier in the podcast was a classmate at DeSales University of Koberger's was interviewed. I almost dropped the remote because it was just so uncanny. Her name is also Madison, and she looked exactly like Maddie Mogan. And then she said that thing about her friends, and her would often catch him watching them or staring at them, but didn't think anything of it. So this is my theory. This is my story. I think Brian had a crush on Madison from DeSales, but never had the balls to talk to her, and definitely wouldn't have asked her out. His antisocial personality wouldn't have allowed it. He moves west, maybe not even giving this Madison a second thought until he sees Maddie Mogan maybe at the Mad Greek. Maybe she served him food, because they do serve vegan food at the Mad Greek. Sorry, my eye is like doing some weird twitchy thing. So, like, he could have ate there. Maybe he saw her. Maybe she was his waitress. So maybe she became like a surrogate for the girl that he had a crush on back at DeSales. And although there's no record of him eating there, maybe he paid in cash. People do that. No one thinks of that possibility. Maybe he started to follow her and found out where she lived. Maybe he followed her on TikTok and Instagram. And you don't have to be someone's friends to check out their accounts if their account isn't private.
No, but it'll tell you who's looked at your account.
That's true. Not unless he's just scrolling the pictures, not the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he had been past Maddie's home on King Road at least 12 times, according to the cell phone records. So he could have easily have learned the house patterns. And he knew where her room was, because he went straight to that room. If he had known Kaylee was at the house, then he would assume that she'd be in her bedroom. I don't think he expected her to be in Maddie's bedroom. I think she was collateral damage, just like Ethan and Xana. I also believe that he had planned to sexually assault Maddie, but couldn't because of the unexpected Kaylee's presence. He carefully laid out plan. It did not go the way that his fantasies had. This is often very common. BTK's first murder was a family of 4, but he never expected anyone to be home other than Mrs. Otero. And he ended up killing her 2 children and her husband too. It did not go as planned. Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana became collateral because why else leave Brittany and Dylan unharmed? They never came out. They never saw him. So Maddie Mogan was a proper stand-in or surrogate for the Madison at DeSales.
That would be why he was... What did you say? People said he was after the murder? After his behavior after? He was preoccupied? Didn't go as planned.
Didn't go as planned. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, anything to add to that? Yeah, anything to add to that?
I'd like to... I've been watching because I want to see how this pans out.
Oh, so you're following it now?
I've been trying to follow it, but where do I follow it? Because I've just been talking to you about it.
Oh, I'll link you up when I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I know we chatted about this before, and then, because your phone listens, it was showing up on Facebook and TikTok.
Now it's going to show up on mine, and it's a new phone. Thanks a lot.
We're going to ruin your algorithms from day one.
Same with mine, right? All right. So the house at 1122 King Road was torn down at the request of the university. I think this is a huge mistake because a lot of the times, especially a house like this, where it's so complicated in terms of layout, the jury could have easily benefited from a little field trip, and they do that. They do that. Owen Hart. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Owen.
See, you could never do like a full DNA scrub of that place because you just
It's
find
too much,
jizz
man. It would
everywhere.
light up like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah. Be like,
But
how the hell they hit the ceiling fan?
they took the jury to the to Nicole Brown Simpson's house during the OJ trial. I think they did that during Home Local in Bernardo too. I'm not sure if they took them there or not. I think they might have, but records on that case are very sketchy. But anyways, a lot of the times that juries will go to the house or to the scene of the crime to get a feel of it. And with the layout being so fucked up as it is, they would have actually been better off to go there so they could hear the sounds that the house makes, the acoustics in it, I guess that's what you would say, and seeing the layout for themselves. I think they made a big mistake tearing it down, but the university, it was owned by the university.
Maybe tearing it down before the trial was over was a big mistake.
Yeah, that's what they did. So they tore it down because the university didn't want to bring their students' morale down after the murders.
Of course not, right? We have to look
Right?
at that.
Yeah. Anyways, the trial is set for the summer of 2025, and the defense has asked for it to be moved out of Latah County, into Boise, Idaho,
Why?
because of the
Publicity?
publicity. Yeah, the amount of publicity, which I actually can't blame them. But like I said earlier, it's not gonna make a fucking difference. We know about it here in Canada.
Yeah.
We know everything. Like, I listen to Nancy Grace. She covers this case a fuck ton. You know, like...
It'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
I'm at this point, like, right now, between Delphi and this one, I'm in it to the end.
Yeah.
And as of right now, if I had to pick a case that's definitely going to go with the guilty verdict, it's going to be Koberger over Richard Allen.
See, because I like the unsolved stuff more,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm also still feeling for Andy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And there's no updates there right now.
yeah, like that needs
would
some
give-
closure. That needs something to move.
Yeah, we need some kind of answers for that case. And there's a lot of answers that we need for these cases too, though.
Well, yeah, but Andy's has been ongoing for a while now.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
thing is we might not ever find out the motives of either the Delphi or this Idaho case, because you do not need to prove, the prosecution does not need to prove motive.
Yeah.
It's just that people want the motive, so they feel like they have to find a motive.
Is that all your stuff?
Yeah.
Awesome. We're at 1 hour 2 minutes right now.
Actually, that's not bad.
Not bad at
I
all.
thought there'd be more discussion.
Well, it's there's not a lot to discuss because it's all unfinished. None of it's been proven. It's all alleged.
A lot of info given.
Yeah,
I
like
got quite a bit. It's
we
just,
can get an odd feel about how the guy may not be screwed down so tight, but also how much of it is
Have you
spun.
seen what he looks like?
No, I don't judge people by their looks because I'm weird looking. I look like Quasimodo got in a fight with Big Bird. So he looks like a normal high school dude.
Look at his eyes.
Yeah, he's got nothing there. He's vapid.
Oh.
Is that the right word? Vapid.
Look, are they black? Yep. Look how big the pupils are.
Yeah. It might be the heroin.
So, but that's also like, people with personality disorders or neurodivergence tend to have a higher chance of addiction because they can't
Yeah.
slow their brain.
Can we talk about this visual snow thing? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah.
What do you mean visual? So I get that sometimes. Like, so when there's people, I
think they're talking about like acute sufferers.
So I have friends that get that I've had a couple, quite a few friends that have migraines. One has told me they get a halo, like in their vision. There's a halo,
Same thing.
and then they know that there's a migraine coming.
because I get like the
And-
Millennium Falcon on speed, where the lights are beaming at you,
Yeah.
funneling.
So
But I
See,
don't have visual snow.
mine kind of like when I'm about to pass out, and it's usually because I drank too much, smoked too much, whatever, cough too hard, whatever. The way I know I'm going to pass out is that the best way to describe it is that my vision slowly pixelates out.
Yeah.
and it turns to black. So that might be the snow that they're talking about. That it just
What
eventually.
does Google say for that?
Okay, I've just found a wiki.
Wiki, what?
So, VSS is an uncommon neurological condition in which the primary symptom is that affected individual sees persistent, flickering, white, black, transparent, or colored dots across the whole visual field. So, the common symptoms... I can't read that stuff. That's a lot of big words. So, basically, it says that... the underlying mechanism is believed to involve excessive excitability of neurons in the right lingual gyrus,
Yep.
and left anterior lobe of the cerebellum. And also, yeah, that's a lot of big words.
Could be a type.
Could be a type of...
Another hypothesis proposes that visual snow syndrome could be a type of thalamocortical dysrhythmia and may involve the thalamic reticular nucleus.
A lot of big words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have had that because I've gone into the eye doctor and I'm like, I keep seeing like white spots on my eyes.
Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what Matt has. In addition to visual snow, many of the affected have other types of visual disturbances, such as starburst, which is what
Yeah.
but I only get that around migraines. I don't have it. Increased after images. So like if you blink, and you, like if I blink right now and Matt's image is outlined, that might be it. Floaters,
Yeah,
I get floaters.
trails, and many others. Visual snow likely represents a clinical continuum with different degrees of severity. The presence of comorbidities, such as
Comorbidities, yes.
such as migraine and tinnitus, is associated with the more severe presentation of visual snow symptoms.
I have tinnitus.
So it may include difficulty concentrating, insomnia, frequent migraines, nausea, and vertigo.
I've had vertigo. I
So-
was told from my eye doctor
so what
that
I'm-
it is more prevalent when you're tired.
Oh,
because
yeah.
your eyes are straight.
Because that's what I was doing, right? I was rubbing my eyes while I was trying to read my theory, and like my eyes are going wonky. That's because I haven't slept since yesterday.
Yeah.
But I think with what they're saying, visual snow is like it's always there.
Yeah.
Yes, so I don't have it all
No.
the time.
No.
I actually haven't had it in a very long time.
Yeah, I had not that long ago.
Oh, you had a migraine a little bit ago.
Yeah,
So we're good?
yeah. I just wanted to touch on the visual snow thing. I also
Yeah.
I also looked up, by the way, if any other serial murderers or potential murderers had ever suffered it, and I couldn't find any information.
No, but a lot of them have antisocial.
Oh yeah, those are behavioral traits that the FBI have proven. Visual snow was a new one, and I wanted to check to see if there was anything on it.
Alrighty.
Yeah, now we're done.
Thank you for joining us on this extra long special on covering the case. We will probably have an update further down the road to keep you guys informed on what's going on, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.